What's going on, everybody? We are back with another rankings video. We are looking at 9 running backs today, running backs 19 through 11, as we have our consensus rankings for the 2023 NFL season half PPR fantasy leagues. As always, I'm joined by my father, Jeff. How's it going, Dad?
Hey, how you doing? It's Friday. The weekend's coming, and getting closer to real football.
Getting closer, about a little over 3 months away. It is, Friday, May 26th. So these are, the May rankings. We'll do late August rankings before the season starts, which I'm sure they will change. We did have some news today, Dad. Hopkins released by the Cardinals. I think we kind of expected that a little bit. Maybe it was some questions about maybe he's going to stay or not. But what do you think about Hopkins being released? And where's for fantasy purposes, where's a place you'd like to see him go?
Yeah, you talk about, first off, the Cardinals are really tanking. I don't care what you call it. This is going to be tanking in the NFL, but a couple places, that come to mind really quick. If you went to Buffalo, I think that would be make the Bills really good. I don't know. There's talk about Kansas City because everybody wants to play with Mahomes and all that, all that junk, and those are the two immediate teams that kind of come to mind.
Yeah, I like the Buffalo. The Buffalo pick for me, just see him go there, and they need a second option next to Diggs, which is why they just went up and traded for Kincaid. I think was part of that reasoning, but he's a rookie, so you can only expect so much. Buffalo has Super Bowl aspirations; they need someone else, so I like that going there. But we'll get into it. We'll go over. We actually went over 11 in our first video. Our top 30 from 20 to 30. Again, this is half PPR for the 2023 fantasy season, not for Dynasty. And we're kind of assuming for a couple things like Kamara, we kind of have ranked him like he's probably going to be suspended 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Injured guys like Javonte and Breece Hall, I think we're ranking them assuming they're going to play week 1, but kind of taking into account they are coming off major injuries. So without further ado, our number 30th was James Cook. Then it went Cam Akers, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, Rashad White, Khalil Herbert. It was 25. David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs comes in at 22. Dameon Pierce, 21. And Javonte Williams, 20th. That was our 20 through 30. And we're going to start today with number 19. We have J.K. Dobbins. I ranked him 24th. Dad, you had him all the way at 13. So you see him as a potential RB1. Right outside that RB1. I see him more as like a low-end RB2. So tell me why you think Dobbins is going to be a high-end RB2 this year.
Yeah, I think the only significant playing time we've seen this guy play was his rookie year, and he did pretty well at Baltimore. He fit their mojo of the run first type thing, and I know that's probably going to change this year. He always had a high yards per carry, and then last year he got hurt. He had a couple procedures on his knee, and he wasn't able to come back until late in the season, but he still looked, when he finally came back and he was all healthy, he was still pretty good. So I consider him the Ravens, RB1, but we know Lamar is going to be, carrying the ball a part of the time. So supposedly there's going to be some offensive changes in Baltimore. So I think Dobbins should be able to, if he can stay healthy, we'll see how he fares there with the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm just hesitant on. I've always have been with Ravens running backs under Lamar. I know different offensive coordinator. I think his name's escaping me now, but I think the guy that was there, he was there for a while. Greg Roman. He was their offensive coordinator
Yeah.
for a while, I think. I'm just looking back, 2020, 2019. So since 2019. So basically since Lamar became the starter. So maybe that will change in how they approach the running back position. But there hasn't really been a great running back under Lamar. For fantasy purposes, the only guy was Mark Ingram in 2019. And I always say this, like the only reason really he became a really good fantasy option is because he caught 5 touchdown passes on 26 catches. And I think that was just a little bit of an anomaly. So, if you say he caught like 1 touchdown or 2, and then, you're looking at 1,000 yards. He did have 10 rushing touchdowns. You're looking at 11, 12 total touchdowns, which is good. But that's like, Miles Sanders numbers last year, or even worse than that. Just doesn't get you super excited. So I don't know. I'm a little worried about it's going to be more of the same. They've always used multiple running backs under Lamar, including Lamar himself.
They still have Gus Edwards, believe it or not.
And Gus Edwards, even though Mark Ingram did really well, he was just super efficient. He had 220 touches, which is good, but Gus Edwards still had 140 touches that year, right? 2020, it was kind of more of the same with you had Gus Edwards getting 150 touches, J.K. Dobbins getting 150 touches, Mark Ingram getting 80 touches. So, like, Gus Edwards is still there. They got a guy that I think is interesting in Keaton Mitchell, coming from ECU, a rookie. I think he went undrafted. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But it does seem like they're going to go more towards the passing game, and maybe that means Dobbins catches more, right? So I guess that's what if you're ranking him that high, that's kind of what you're hoping for. So he has had really good yards per carry. If you look at that, like over 6 his rookie year, 6 yards to carry, 5.7 last year, 5.9 for his career. It's really good. It is really, really good.
Too bad he's from Ohio State.
Yeah. Aaron Jones comes in at 18th. The good old reliable Aaron Jones. And I'm just looking at where I had him. I had him 18th. I have him 15th. So we're pretty close. I guess we're expecting more of the same with Aaron Jones. I mean, he was RB9 last year. Didn't miss a game, which was good. Averaged 13 half PPR points a game, which is solid for like an RB2. You kind of expecting the same, Dad, with Aaron Jones? Do you think they're going to run it more?
Yeah, geez, just looking at his stats from last year, he probably had almost his best year statistically, minus a little weak in the touchdown area, but his yards, 1,121 yards, 59 receptions. So, and again, we know now there's a different quarterback in town, but they should rely, the Packers should rely on this run game, and it starts with Aaron Jones. So I think he should, there's no reason not to expect 1,000 yards out of Aaron Jones unless health is a problem. But he played all 17 games last year, so.
Yeah, and he's one of those where you can worry maybe a little less about health just because he's not going to be Derrick Henry, 300 touches. He's more like a Kamara or Eckler. Like if he goes back to like his 2020, 2019 years where, he's still getting like 250 touches, but a lot of them are catches, 50, 30, 40% of them are catches, which I just feel like when you catch the ball, there's a little less of a chance of getting injured than running between the tackles. For what it's worth, the one game that Jordan Love has started, Aaron Jones had 12 carries and 2 targets. So I don't know if you want to base anything off of that at all. I don't. But we don't know Jordan Love, right? We don't know really anything about Jordan Love and how he's going to play. who he's going to target, how good he's going to be. Because if that offense sucks, it kind of goes back to, why you're afraid of a couple guys like James Conner is because of their offense. So it's like, well, what if the Packers just suck, because Jordan Love sucks. I think he'll be good. And I'm kind of just expecting a little more of the same. And I think you can get a little bit of a discount. I mean, Aaron Jones was going probably second round last year. You could probably get him as a little bit of a discount, maybe fourth, fifth round as your RB2, and I'll be happy with that because I agree. I think, he's basically going to put up similar numbers to what he did last year, and just hopefully positive regression in touchdowns. So, but we'll move on here. And our next guy on the list, coming in at number 17, is Miles Sanders. I'm pretty sure I'm the high guy on Miles Sanders this year. I have him 15th. Daddy, I have him 17th. I'm really, really excited about Miles Sanders. I was debating, and I might change it, of putting him over Tony Pollard in my list, just because it's Miles Sanders and no one else. The Panthers did nothing in the running back room besides bring in Miles Sanders. They didn't draft anyone. So it's like Chuba Hubbard's there, okay. Blackshear's there, okay. Neither of them really worry me too much. Miles Sanders last year looked really good. I mean, he had almost 1,300 yards. He had, 12 plus touchdowns. Miles Sanders came in as the RB13, and he averaged 12.2 half PPR points a game. And I think there's a good chance that he catches more passes because his head coach is the guy. So Miles Sanders' rookie year, just double checking this, but Miles Sanders' rookie year, Frank Wright was the offensive coordinator. And that's when Miles Sanders had 50 catches. And he's never had more than 28 since then. And so maybe I'm wrong about the right thing. But I've heard that they want to they basically want to throw the ball to Miles Sanders more. So I'm basically saying if he's going to get similar touches to what he was last year, but he's going to get 20 more catches, like I'm really, really high on Miles Sanders. So, Dad, how do you feel about Miles Sanders? Yeah, you're muted. You're muted, Dad.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was coughing, so I didn't want to cough on air. But they have an okay. I mean, this is something good for Miles Sanders. I agree with everything you say. You do look at his rookie year, and he did catch 50 passes. I know that was 4 years ago, but it's like he can catch passes. Carolina doesn't have a lights out wide receiver staff. So, I mean, they're good players, but, and, just as you analyzed already, he is the Carolina Panthers running game.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to get a lot of chances, and his yards per carry have always been really good. He's good sized running back, 5'11", 210, and he knows what he's doing. So,
and look at Deontay Foreman last year behind that Carolina line. He averaged, when he took over from McCaffrey, 11 games, 877 yards. You stat that out for 17 games. That's a 1,300-yard rusher. He averaged 4.5 yards a carry. So they showed they could run the ball. That offensive line, I think, really improved, and they showed they can run the ball. I mean, even Chuba Hubbard looked good running the ball. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry last year behind that line. And so another thing to keep in mind is who is Miles Sanders' quarterback? It's Bryce Young. Who was the number one targeted player on Alabama's team last year? It was a running back. It was Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
So we've seen Bryce Young will throw to the running back, and he could rely on that as a little bit of a crutch as he transitions to the NFL of this is what I feel comfortable with. I just think Miles Sanders could have a huge year this year. I think he could have 1,600 total yards, 40, 50 catches, and then we'll see about the touchdowns, kind of. So I'm really excited about Miles Sanders. Definitely going to be targeting him if possible in fantasy leagues. And like I said, I kind of wanted to put him over Tony Pollard, but I ended up not. But we'll see when the final rankings come out. But the next guy, Ken Walker, interesting one. I think I was much higher than him than you, Dad. Yeah, you had him 20th. I had him 12th. I had him as an RB1. You have him as an RB2. Why do you have Ken Walker, who looked really good as a rookie last year, I would say, right? He if you take out basically when Rashad Penny was still playing, which was, I think, week 4, Rashad Penny got hurt, if I remember correctly. So if we just go from week 15 on, Ken Walker was the RB7 last year, averaged 15 half PPR points a game. So why are you shying away from him being an RB1, Dad?
Well, it's called Zach Charbonneau, so but he's going to probably cut into his carries a little bit. I mean, do I still see him? He carried the ball 228 times last year. Do I still see that happening? Yeah, I do. So we know Seattle is a run heavy team. So, I don't know. I don't see him as a running back one. I know it's close. There's a lot of guys in our list here that we can move up and down, and you were talking about Tony Pollard and Miles Sanders and stuff like that, and those are all legitimate thoughts and things like that. So I didn't. I'm not sure if Kenneth Walker. I don't know if we're going to get anything more out of him than what you've seen last year. So,
yeah. But I mean, again, that was RB7. 15 half PPR points a game.
That's good information, by the way.
Yeah, and I would say, so I'm actually going to release a video talking about the whole Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker situation and kind of what to expect. And I went back and was just kind of looking at, what are examples of teams drafting running backs in the second, I did first, second, or third round when they already had an established guy. And since like 2010, there's only about 15 cases of guys, taking running backs that high when they have established guys. And none of those guys really did anything. They didn't really replace that guy, including an example from the Seahawks and Pete Carroll themselves. They drafted Christine Michael in 2013 in round 2. Marshawn Lynch was there. Christine Michael had 18 touches that year.
Jeez.
So he didn't factor in at all. He might have gotten hurt because he was only in 4 games. But even in those 4 games, you were only getting 5 touches a game. Another example from the Seahawks, Rashad Penny. He was a first-round pick. Rashad Penny's first year, he had 94 touches. And there wasn't even necessarily an established guy there. It's just Penny had and he played in 14 games, by the way. So it's not like he missed a bunch of time. He had 94 touches in 14 games. So I just feel like maybe we're overreacting a little bit to
Charbonneau.
Charbonnet's going to come in and get 180 touches or something crazy and take away touches. It's possible. And I think, one area he could do it in is in the pass catching. And there's some telling stats about Kenneth Walker at the goal line actually wasn't very good last year, which is, I think, it surprised people. And Charbonnet was in college. And so maybe that's an area that Charbonnet takes over. So it is possible, but I do think that maybe we're slightly overreacting to it. And Ken Walker's the guy. Charbonnet's there. And teams do this where they basically draft how their board falls, even if it's not necessarily a position of need. Maybe they had Charbonnet as a high second-round pick and he fell to them and it was just the best player on their board. And that's how a lot of teams draft. So I don't think it necessarily tells something about Ken Walker. So I still like Ken Walker. I'm still happy. I'm happy if he falls, and if I can pick him up as my second RB, like I'll scoop that up all day. Anything else on Ken Walker you want to say, Dan?
No, not really. Just I expect the same production. He had 220 some carries, so maybe the improvement would be maybe a little bit in the passing game. And I didn't know Penny got hurt that early last year. I thought it was more mid-season, but
yeah, I think it was like he started 11 games, so maybe it was like week 6.
Yeah, okay.
So Ken Walker started 11 games, that is. So our next guy on the list is Travis Etienne, and it's another one that we're pretty divided on. I would say I'm low on Etienne. I have him 19th, and Dad, you have him 12th, so kind of reverse. I had Ken Walker where you had Etienne, and I have Etienne where you had Ken Walker. So tell me why you're confident in Etienne being an RB1.
I just think this guy's got all the tools. We know his rookie year he got hurt, so last year was really his first year. So now, everybody's expecting great things out of Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, this and all that, and Etienne. He still had 1,125 yards, and he rushed for over 5 yards a carry. He's pretty involved with the passing game, 35. So, I mean, even if he's what did he rank as a running back last year?
He finished 17th. He played every game. He finished 17th. Of course, James Robinson was kind of there the first 4 weeks or so. He averaged 11 points. I think week 5 is when Robinson kind of left there, and Etienne was RB 15. So he averaged about 1.5 points more a game. If you take out the first 4 games, so. But
the Jaguars, just as we were talking about Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, Jaguars drafted a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Tank Bigsby, who could obviously take some carries or some time or something. We all know it takes more than one running back in the NFL. There's not too many running backs that are shouldering the load all themselves, like Derrick Henry and maybe Najee, but yeah, I just think Etienne going to take a slight jump this year.
Yeah, that's fair. There are a lot of things that come out where it's just like maybe Etienne, and I kind of feel this way myself, is like maybe he's not an every down guy. Maybe he's better as like a Tony Pollard to a Zeke Elliott. And he's better in that kind of role where he gets less touches, but hopefully he's very efficient with them. I just feel like them, possibly drafting. The reason why so we talked about it with like the Charbonnet, and I'm not super worried about it with Ken Walker. And the difference here is that Doug Peterson did not draft Etienne. It wasn't him. It was the asshole. I forget his name now, from Ohio State.
Oh, Urban Meyer.
It was him that took him in the first round, and maybe he just doesn't fit Doug Peterson's offense. And I think there's a chance that that's kind of what Doug Peterson wants at the running back position, and I think there's kind of a chance that that's true. So that's why I'm just like a little bit alarmed. Like I'm not gonna have Etienne on any of my teams this year because people are gonna take him 3rd round or something, and he's just like a prime. He could be a bust candidate. He could be. It's week 6, and we're like, why the hell are they using Etienne and more and stuff like that? Just like Swift, why aren't they using Swift as much? and things like that. And it's just like, well, maybe they just don't fit into their offense, right? Like it's just a case of like, sorry, you're not a fit for us. And similar situation, right? The Dan Campbell didn't draft DeAndre Swift. He wasn't part of that coaching staff that drafted DeAndre Swift.
There's one difference, though. There's one difference.
Yeah.
He's Trevor Lawrence's boy from Clemson.
Yeah.
You can't, you got to keep the quarterback happy. So
you're saying like Lawrence is going to throw a fit if they?
Look what happened to Green Bay when they got rid of Devontae Adams. They started melting down. Rodgers' boy wanted out of town. So
yeah, I understand they played together, but we don't really know their relationship together. Yeah, we assume it's good, but it's good. They played together in college. Like that doesn't mean like they're having dinner every night together or something. So I don't know. I just think I think of the DeAndre Swift situation. All this talent, we wonder why they're not using him. Well, the coaching staff that didn't use him didn't draft him and they went with Jamal Williams, a guy who's like not athletic at all, who's never bust off big touchdown runs, but he gets the job done. And maybe that's what Peterson wants at the running back position. He doesn't want this guy dancing around trying to find a hole. He wants you to get the job done. And maybe he sees that with Tank Bigsby. So it's just something to think about. Something to think about when you're, maybe think twice about taking Etienne as like your RB1 in the third round because you go receiver or something. Like, I don't know. I'm just a little hesitant there. But next on our list, we have Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, who we don't know. At this point, it's hard for me to believe that they're just going to can Dalvin Cook and move on. He's kind of meant a lot to that organization, I'd say, since they drafted him. And it'd be kind of a shitty move to just be like, yeah, we're releasing you June 1st when everyone else already has their running backs. And why wouldn't you have released them way earlier in the year?
Business.
And give him a chance. Yeah, but you can post June 1st cut him technically. Give him a chance to find a team. The guy's kind of been your offense before Justin Jefferson got there, and
I don't feel sorry for him. So
I just think it's kind of like a dick move. And my point is, at this point, I'm leaning a little bit more towards he's going to be back with the Vikings than he's going to not. I guess so. If he's with the Vikings, Dad, do you think this is a fair ranking for him? Either way, at number 14, do you think he'll get a little bit of a boost if he's back with the Vikings?
Man, this is tough to figure out because they obviously wanted Madison back and they signed him back. So just how much is he going to cut into the Dalvin Cook playing time? I don't know. So I'm not sure if I see. I don't know if if it's status quo or not. It's kind of different, and they're looking for trade partners or whatever. But he had 260 carries. That's quite a bit, and the guy seems to be pretty involved, with the passing game and everything. So I guess there's probably one more year left in him there in Minnesota. So I guess it's probably a fair ranking where he's at.
Yeah, RB10 last year, half PPR, almost 13 points a game. So still getting it done as a number one running back. I just think a lot of people took him in the first round, and he didn't pan out as a first rounder. Still had almost 1,200 yards, 40 catches, only about 300 yards. I don't think he's going to get back to the 45, 50 catch mark, especially how the team's moving towards, they have Hawkinson, Jefferson, and Addison now. Those three guys are going to catch the majority of the passes. So I think you can probably stat him out for, if he is back with the Vikings, you can stat him out for a 30 catches. So I think it's fair as well. I don't worry too much about Madison because it's like this guy's going into his 5th year now, and he's never had more than 500 yards rushing. Like, I know we love Alexander Madison, and like, oh, he's looked good when Cook's been out, but it feels to me like a Gabriel Davis type of situation where it's just like we would project Madison to do these crazy numbers where he's never been anywhere close.
Hey, aren't you going to use that? Aren't you going to use that word that I dislike?
What?
Handcuff. Which is bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know why you dislike it. It's just a word.
Yeah, it's just one of those words that mean nothing.
Well, it does mean something. It's just you refuse to acknowledge its meaning.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like calling a score in the NFL a touchdown. That's just a word to describe something, you know.
Get off my lawn.
Instead of saying, "Oh, they scored 6 points by running it into the goal line," they say touchdown. So instead of saying the backup running back to Dalvin Cook is
get off my lawn.
So I think you just you're finding something to hate there that's not there. But Gabriel Davis was one of those where, like, he was going into his 3rd year last year, was nowhere close to what people were projecting him as. You know, this 1,000-yard receiver, 10-touchdown guy. So, I don't know. I'm not too worried about Madison if Cook is back. So, but our next guy is Tony Pollard. I'm curious. I had Pollard ranked 14th, Daddy had him 16th, so we're pretty close. Pollard's going to get drafted very, very high this year. Dad, would you be okay taking him as like your RB1 in the 2nd or 3rd round?
No.
Early 3rd.
I wouldn't. No, I would not. Because he's, he had a very good year last year, and but sharing time with Zeke, so I think they're. Holy crap, I'm going to use it. They were handcuffed together, so.
How good do you think Pollard, where do you think he finished last year?
How good?
Yeah, what RB what was he last year, if you had to guess?
I don't know, 15, 18.
He was RB7 last year.
7, wow.
And he averaged 14.3 points a game, which was good for 8th average-wise, so.
Yeah.
And that was with Zeke.
I can't.
That's where people are excited, because Zeke's gone, possibly.
Yeah, but we don't know if he can handle that type of. They need somebody else, and it's not crystal clear there. But I'm not comfortable drafting Tony Pollard there. I'd take Travis Etienne over Pollard.
Yeah,
that'd be one of those losers, right?
I don't know. I had the same fears of with Pollard as well. Like, it does feel like, yeah, he was RB7 last year, which was amazing. Obviously, splitting time, like Zeke still had a lot of carries. I'm just double checking right now. Zeke had 230 carries and 17 catches, so. Basically 250 touches last year.
You got to make that up somehow.
He had more than Pollard, actually. So I do think it's slightly unlikely that the team. I think it's very possible that they use Pollard in the same way and they find someone else to be, whether it's bringing Zeke back, which is still a possibility.
Yes.
Ronald Jones is there, and maybe they just treat Ronald Jones as the Zeke. There's a guy, Malik Davis, who's been on the team for a couple years, but, I don't think he's that guy. But I think there is a chance they just have a guy that, all right, here's the new Zeke. Maybe Pollard gets a little bit of an uptick. I do think there's a chance he's not the full-on main guy, which is why I ranked him where I did, right outside, in the top 15, rather than like, if he is the full guy and I knew he was going to get like 300 touches and he was going to last, then he's a top 5 running back for me. I think there's a chance that's not the case. And it's one of those things like, yeah, we've never seen it before from Pollard. I think before last year, he had never had more than 15 carries in a game. He got that a couple times last year, I think. But yeah, it was like he never had more than like 15 carries in a game until last year, including college, by the way.
Yeah, I think we went back and looked at his University of Memphis and how he was used. And
78 touches was his most in a season.
Jeez.
78 carries, sorry.
Yeah.
So
I'm not. Yeah, I'd be nervous drafting him this high.
Yeah, I think I'd be. Go ahead.
No, he's not going to sneak up on anybody. Like he has like last year. I had him on a team last year that I did pretty well with, and most of it was, part of it was because of him. So
yeah. I think he's a nice target. Like I think I'd be okay with him in the third round, especially if I go like wide receiver, and I get Pollard as my RB1 in the third round. Like I'm probably okay with it just because he has. I mean, we saw it last year. He can be a top 7 guy, splitting. So even if there is a guy in there that's going to kind of play the Zeke role, Pollard can still be a top 10 player. Yeah, I still like Pollard, but I'll be very interested to see where he's going to go in fantasy drafts because I think he's going to go very high because the team didn't really do anything besides bring in Ronald Jones and draft Deuce Vaughn, who's another guy who's 5'6", 175 pounds from Kansas State. He's not going to be the Zeke. So 2 more guys, though, on the list before we finish up. Joe Mixon coming in at 12. We're assuming at this point he's going to be back with Cincinnati. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't have kind of moved on from him already if they were planning on it. They didn't really find anyone in the draft. I know they did draft Chase Brown in like the 5th, 6th round. But Joe Mixon, I think it's going to be one more year of very similar kind of production. I had him. Where did I have him? I had him 11th. Dad, you had him 19th, so you dropped him pretty far. So what's your case for Mixon not being a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2?
Yeah, even though I had him at 19th, I still like Mixon. I just think he's probably in that running back 2. I think he missed some games last year, maybe not many, but
3.
Yeah, he had a little drop off in his stats, and his receiving stats had an uptick. His rushing, he was down. He had 814 yards, and I don't know. I think the Bengals, I think they've tried to do, the same thing that the Cardinals just did to DeAndre Hopkins, try to trade him and stuff like that. And so, they could cut him, and, who knows where he's going to end up. But hopefully he hangs out with Cincinnati. And, what was his status, his ranking last year?
He was RB12 last year, 14 points a game. He had a 50-point game, though. He had like a 6-touchdown game. So that really skews it a bit. Yeah. Other than that, he only went over 15 points 3 times, sorry. And he had some dud games under 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times of the 14 weeks he played. So
wow, that hurts.
It hurts for sure. He was very inefficient. You would think on a team that has Chase and Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Burrow, you're going to have a lot of empty boxes, and he did. And he just didn't run well. He averaged 3.9 yards a carry. Did have the 60 catches, which kind of saved his season. And obviously a 6-touchdown performance does that as well, or 5 or 6, whatever he had. But if they cut him, I'm dropping him very, very far because I don't know where he would go, where he's going to be the guy at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. If they do cut him, he'll get a job somewhere, but we don't know if it's in the same type of role that he is with the Bengals. So
no, it won't be. I mean, because teams have their running backs kind of figured out at this point. Same thing with Dalvin Cook. It's like, man, where could he go? Like maybe Miami, and like you can figure like just become the best running back there. But it's like you're probably going to be a Zeke to Pollard, or you're going to go to the Chargers, and Eckler's going to take all the catches and something like that. So, but as long as he stays on the Bengals, I can kind of keep him around this low end RB1 in my opinion. And I think he's a guy that will fall, and you can snatch him up maybe in like the 5th, 6th round, which I think is pretty good value for him. But getting into our last guy that before we get into the top 10 is Breece Hall. I think we both had him pretty close. I had him 13th. Dad, you had him 10th. So we're both right around that low end RB1 range. Obviously, the story with Breece Hall was he was looking amazing last year before he had his big knee injury. And so that's kind of the big thing. It's really, really hard right now to kind of project, like, where does Breece Hall go? Because, like, if he's healthy, he should be a fringe first-round pick. But we just don't know if he's going to be healthy and if he's going to be limited at the beginning. I would guess he is, even if he starts week 1. That running back room, they have a bunch of guys. But Breece Hall was RB6. The 7 weeks he played, Breece Hall was RB6. He averaged 15.1 points a game. So he was a stud. And he was looking like he was going to be, a top 5 running back until he went down. So, Dad, Breece Hall, are you concerned about the knee injury?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if it cuts into part of his season, And, if he missed some games in September and things like that to get back to where he was. And I know the knee injury was right there at the end of October. So, some guys are Superman and they recover from this stuff pretty quickly. And other guys are like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. They're always hurt or something. So
yeah,
we'll see. He was, I have him in a dynasty league, and I was fortunate enough to get him last year, and he was starting to come on, and then the balloon popped. So yeah, I'm a little concerned. You got to watch. He's not practicing in OTAs, which is not a shock, which is news I just read, and he, I don't think I'd practice him either.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just, again, and I went back and looked at a lot of these guys coming off of knee injuries, Achilles injuries, and there's just not many that bounce back. Like, there's hardly any that bounce back right away. Like, even we talked about J.K. Dobbins. He wasn't ready to start the season, and he injured his knee in training camp or first game, right, of the 2021 season.
It was a preseason game.
Yeah, so he was in a preseason game. He started the year, I think, on the PUP in 2022. And he didn't start on the PUP, but he missed the first 2 games, played 4 games, didn't look good at all, then got re-injured or his knee wasn't 100%.
Had another surgery,
Sat another 6 weeks, and then he looked good because now we're talking about December. Now you're talking about a year and a half out, and that's kind of where I want to be. So, yeah, I can see Breece Hall being good from like mid-October, early November on, kind of regaining his form, but it might take him a month. They ease him in. He doesn't get many touches. Michael Carter's there. Danny Kenda's there. There's even another guy that I think I'm forgetting that's there, but it could be one of those where if you take him as like in the second round and he's your RB1, you're relying on him to put up major points for you. Those first 4 weeks, he could be disappointing. And 4 weeks is like a third of the fantasy regular season. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it is.
So it's just tough. That's where it gets really tough. Now, if you're telling me I could draft him in the late 4th or 5th round, I'm all in because it's like, okay, I can survive 4 weeks without him because I have other guys. But it's tough, and I think you're going to have to take him in the second round.
If you want
I think he's going to be, and I think he's going to be ready for the beginning of the year, but I think it could be disappointing. But hopefully he's that unicorn where that's not the case, and he runs for 2,000 yards like Adrian Peterson, So, any other words there? Do you want to? Again, I guess our rankings is Dobbins came in 19th. Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Ken Walker, Etienne 15th. Dalvin Cook, Tony Pollard, Joe Mixon, and then Breece Hall at 11th. So we have our top 10. You should know the names. We'll figure out the order in the next video. Dad, any last words?
No, just out of those guys that we looked at, probably the one who could potentially have, be the best out of all of those. I think Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I guess him or Breece Hall. Like if we're talking about who could be like a top 5 running back, I think, yeah, him or Breece Hall. If Breece Hall is just like, a superhuman that can recover quickly. Because obviously, like if he didn't get hurt, he would be. I mean, where would he be on this list, Dad? If he didn't tear his ACL last year, he would be right there with like CMC and Eckler and Bijan. Like he'd be a top 3 or 4 guy, right? If he didn't tear his ACL, Breece Hall. Yeah. So, yeah, if he's a superhuman, he's the guy who could, out of this list, if there's anyone I'm going to put money on finishing as RB1, I think it is going to be Breece Hall. So, but thank you so much. We are 10 subscribers away from 200. So if you could subscribe to the channel, it doesn't take much effort. If you are watching this video and you're not subscribed, also like it. And we will catch you all next time.